Yeah, poor people shouldn't be having kids because it's a selfish thing to do to bring a child into poverty when poverty has been deemed a form of trauma.
Hey people, welcome and welcome back to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe. Today's conversation is a controversial topic, but let's be real and talk about it. Having kids when you are poor is not just hard, it can be irresponsible, and children deserve more than just love. So kindly watch the following videos I've put together, and I'll be back to leave my own comment. Please stick around.
Knowingly having kids when you live in poverty, knowing that they will also be impoverished, is a form of abuse. When did we all become so afraid of being politically correct that we can't admit when things are right in our face? Yes, in the United States, we hate poor people. It's so much more expensive to be poor in this country. It's also very expensive to be single without kids in this country. But saying someone hates poor people because someone decides to have 6 kids in a 1-bedroom home so much that they have to sleep in the kitchen, that's not hating poor people. That's looking at the facts. It's abusive. My best friend grew up impoverished, poor, in the middle of Michigan. And we have this conversation all the time. She is so triggered from her past of being poor. I have to convince her to do small things. I have to convince her to spend money on like a new tire. I have to convince her to spend money on herself. One time she called me because she was going on a trip and she needed something. I can't remember what it was, but it was only $20. And she's like, I can't spend that money. Mind you, my best friend has worked consistently for 10 years. She is a top director at her job. She makes a good, consistent income and she has no overhead. She doesn't have kids and she's not married. But the trauma of being poor makes her second guess everything she buys because she's afraid of being poor again. She talks about how they didn't have money in the house and they didn't know where the food was going to come from, and the stress of living with that, with seeing her mother struggle and then therefore it trickling down on her till this day causes her anxiety. Like, she just texted me to say, oh, I booked a trip to Florida and I didn't even think about it and I'm going to stay there. And I was like, good for you. And when I tell you that's something she didn't have during her childhood, she's literally healing her inner child. We are nothing but children cosplaying as adults. Everything we do in our adulthood goes back to our childhood. So knowingly bringing a child into that kind of environment means you're not even thinking about them as a kid, but you're not even thinking about them in the future as an adult. I'm going to go more in depth in this on my YouTube page, but let's all just face the facts. It is a form of abuse to bring a child knowingly into poverty just because you wanted children.
Out. Having kids in 2025 and thereafter is a mental illness. Shout out to Dana Dane. I always enjoy her breakdowns, but I'm gonna take it a step further. It's a mental illness at this point. And I think they probably need to declare it a mental illness in order to get those kids the resources that they need for free, I guess, right? The reason why I think it's a mental illness, and I am not qualified to diagnose anybody with a mental illness, but because I understand the way nature is supposed to go for the most part, I think I can say there's something wrong with these people, right? Because we are supposed to be the evolved species. The female is supposed to be more evolved than this. But the females of all the other species on the planet instinctively know not to reproduce when the environment is not right, when it is not safe, when there are not enough resources. Even insects, even spiders know this, right? But somehow the most evolved species haven't figured this out yet. I do know a lot of it has to do with social conditioning and brainwashing and all of that. Huge part. But at what point, at what age, at what time in your life do you get to a place where you're like, I should have learned my lesson after the first baby. I'm not having no more kids. It's hard with 2 kids. I'm not finna have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 50, 11. Like, who finna, like, why? And I don't know what to do, because it's like, do we help them in order to look out for those innocent kids who didn't ask for any of this? Or do we just say, tough, this is the consequence of your actions, deal with it? I don't know what we're supposed to do. But every time I get online and I see this stuff, I get very frustrated, because it's like, just stop. If you don't have the resources and you don't have the education, okay, the one thing you can do is stop having sex. Stop effing. Just stop. You don't need a man. You don't need a husband. Most of them are not going to help you anyway. What you need is to be a mother, and you need resources for your children.
If you are living in poverty on the struggle bus, trucking it on that choo-choo struggle train every day, don't have kids. Don't have kids, okay? Because they're probably going to end up in prison, and I can say that because I was there and I saw what happens and who's there. Why on God's earth would you willingly bring a child into misery just to ride the struggle bus with you? Like, that is crazy to me. Y'all are selfish as hell. I saw it in prison. I saw the results of couples and women in poverty going out there and popping out all these kiddos. And I saw your kiddos in prison because I was in there with them. And when we got out, I was able to make a life for myself as to where they went back to prison. And it's because you decided to have them and give them shit for a chance. It's very likely that if you grew up in poverty, your parents grew up in poverty as well and had you in poverty. And it's just a generational ass curse that's going to continue on and on and on until somebody's smart enough to break it. If you think that you having your child in poverty and saying, oh, well, but I'm going to love them and that's going to be enough, it's not, okay? Love does not equal opportunities. Love does not equal food on the table, a good education, and a good core friend group is going to influence the hell out of them. No, love does not do that. Love may give them a warm, safe, fuzzy feeling when they're in the house for the moments that they're around you. But all those other hours of the day, baby, the area you live in, the school they go to, their core group of friends, all that is going to determine and dictate and influence their decision-making and their path. So if you want the trajectory of their life to be straight struggle bus, then keep on having children in poverty. Okay? I stand on what I said. Do better. So, again, if you're living in poverty, you should not be having children.
Yeah, poor people shouldn't be having kids because it's a selfish thing to do to bring a child into poverty when poverty has been deemed a form of trauma. It's not classist. It's not even teetering on the line of eugenics. It's truly common sense and basic humanity. Why would you bring a child into poverty who's going to knowingly suffer because you don't have the access to all the resources needed to successfully raise them as a proper child? It is basic humanity and consideration to be so self-aware to know that if you cannot provide for yourself or the children you currently have, you should not be having more children. And you realize poverty is not an inherited genetic characteristic, right? So there's no way it's teetering on the line of eugenics. As someone who has worked in early childhood special education and general education in early childhood programs, elementary schools, and middle schools, I can confidently say it is such a tragedy to watch families continually have children who can't even provide for the ones they currently have. These families truly have no shame because they announce it like it's supposed to be this big celebration. I'm sorry, but in what world are we celebrating the tragedy of another child being born into poverty when these parents can't even provide for the children they currently have? And because they're having another child that they cannot provide for, all those children now are going to have more neglect because there's another child added that they have to be responsible for when they clearly can't even provide for the ones they already have. Like, am I speaking French to the Chinese army in Russia? Does no one understand what I'm saying? Like, be so for real. I said poor people shouldn't be having kids, and a lot of people hate that I say that, but it's honestly the truth. Children deserve stability. Children deserve to have safe environments. Children deserve to have consistent environments. And when you live in poverty, you can't provide that. You can't even provide for yourself. Like, duh, you're poor. So how can you provide for a child? Saying poor people shouldn't be having children while they are actively in poverty is not a bad thing. Children need consistency and routines and healthy relationships in their primal developmental years, birth to 5, so that they have the most optimal development, because the brain is 80% developed by the age of 3 and 90% developed by the age of 4. And brain research will show when infants and toddlers are exposed to poverty, it increases cortisol levels, the stress hormone in their body, which negatively affects their brain development. Like, many parents wanted a child or a little, many parents wanted a baby, not a child that they had to parent for the rest of their life. They think having a child is a little accessory, and it's not. It's a human being that's going to merge into their own person. Like, some of you parents be so for real.
Bruh, it's crazy because when you think about it, like, motherfuckers in third world countries in Section 8 and shit like that be having mad kids, and then people that got hella wealth don't even be having as many kids. Like, how you broke as fuck with 8 kids, and then the motherfuckers that's rich as fuck got 2, maybe 3? That don't make sense. It don't make sense at all.
Children need a lot of things. They need shelter, food, education, healthcare, safety, and emotional stability. Struggling to survive while raising a child doesn't make you a hero. It often creates a cycle of poverty and pain. People love to say, we made it work, but barely surviving isn't the same as thriving. A child shouldn't grow up watching their parents constantly stressed, working multiple jobs, unable to afford basic needs. That struggling can leave emotional scars. It cannot just be income, it's about preparation, financial, emotional, and mental readiness. Yes, some poor parents are amazing, do the best they can, but that doesn't mean it's ideal. In many cases, poverty limits options. It limits education, it limits access to opportunities, and it limits what parents can pour out in their children. Love is important, but love doesn't pay rent or responsibilities or hospital bills. We don't talk enough about how children inherit struggle they didn't ask for. It's not fair to bring a life into the world just to suffer. If you are financially unstable, the responsibility choice is to wait, build, plan, and get stable. Then bring a child into a home where they can strive, not just survive. Kids are not an escape from loneliness. They are not emotional support. They are human beings who deserve the best. And if you can't offer that yet, it's okay, but be honest with yourself. Because choosing to have a child while knowing you can't provide is a decision that affects more than just you, but everyone around you. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video. See you in the next video, and stay safe.